Hello, Internet. Welcome back here at Legacy Books. I'm excited. I'm always excited, but I'm really excited today. We've got Douw Steyn. Now, you know Douw Steyn, very famous Recce officer, and he wrote several books. And today we're going to talk about those books. Douw, you're very welcome here. Thank you for coming to us. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Let us start with Iron Fist from the Sea. You wrote that book with Arne Suderland, the Admiral, which we also interviewed here. Can you tell me, though, why did you write that book?
Chris, thank you for the opportunity to show and talk about Iron Fist from the Sea, because it's a book very close to my heart. And around about 2010, 2011, I said I must write a book on the unit that I come from. Because understand, the unit that we came from, 4 Recce, as well as 1 Recce and 5 Recce, they were never on it and say, well done, my guys, you did a good operation. We keep undercover, we just did it, and we never spoke about it. Then in 2010, I decided, now I must write a book, even if I only distribute 45 of those books, to give it to my operators and say to them, thank you very much for your book. There's a book for you for what you did. And in the book there, I decided then to start to write, get stories here, put it in a book and write. I couldn't do that. I also decided, and you'll see that all my books that I write is a we and not a I. Then I said, I cannot write this book if I do not include the Navy, because the Navy was the central part of 4 Recce's movement. We call them our Ubers. The Navy was our Ubers, taking us wherever we wanted to go. My motivation to write the book is as follows. Men are hunted by the vastness of eternity. Therefore, we ask ourselves, will our actions echo across the centuries? Will strangers hear our names long after we are gone? And we wonder who we were, how bravely we fought, how fiercely we loved. And that was Sean Bean that gave me that. And when I wrote that, when I read that quote, I said, no, I must do something. So I contacted Angel, the Admiral, and Angel was immediately enthusiastic to assist me. He got 45, and I forgot all the names of the operations, and I didn't know what to do. And Angel went into the filing system, and he found 45 names of operations that the strike crafts and submarines did. He gave it to me. I wrote a letter to the Secretary of Defense and asked him, this is the operations we did. Can we get the top secret files declassified? That was just a chance I took. 3 months later, I got a letter, and there was 205 top secret files declassified, which I can then use to write my book. So the book is very factual, and the contents of the book reads as a preface. Then it is the where we decided to do is to write a write-up of 4 Recce, do a write-up of the Navy, do a write-up of where the Navy and 4 Recce came together, and then the operations we did. So that was the golden thread through the book. Now, in the book, you get various operations, very, very tactical operations. If you want my operations, I will start it off with by saying, what is the reason for the operation? Then the preparing of the operation, doing the operation, and then the aftermath. That is how we put out the operations in sequence. And because we got all the information from our files. Now, if you look at some of the operations, I want to go just a little bit further into certain operations that was done. You must also understand that in the earlier days of 1 Recce and 4 Recce, when 4 Recce moved to Langebaan, they were just a very small unit, by doing diving and sailing on boats and driving boats and things like that. So when operations or raids must be take place, we got it from the guys from One Recce, and the first few operations, I was a raiding commander, and we got all the operations doing that by One Recce. Then later on, 4 Recce came in and they did the operations by themselves, specifically submarine operations, Recce operations, and so some clandestine diving operations. That was all done by 4 Recce. And and I must say that the book is in 3 phases, or 3 books it was written. Iron Fist from the Sea, the day when I want to write it, and I went to the publishers and said, I got this information, please write can you publish it for me? They said, no, they don't want to touch the book. It's too much of information, it's sensitive, and. So then Hillian publishers came from England, and they said, no problem. They will publish the book. So the book is then published in England, and it was sent to us to sell it. It came out very expensive on this side, but in Europe it went very well. There's actually a few academies that actually took the book as one of their books to read out in that they must study and how they must do seaborne operations. And then many years later, the South Africans decided, no, but now they can write a book. Nobody was in trouble with the book. And then a company came to me and said, can they print a book? I said, yes, let us do it. We worked through Hillian, and they gave us the right to write. But there was one condition on that. We must write 2 books, one in Afrikaans, one in English, and a much smaller version with not the detail. So it comes out a little bit cheaper for the buying force in South Africa. So yes, then we did that, the Afrikaans one and the English one. The pictures on the front of the page is different. You can purely see what is the difference in the 2 books. The one is thinner and the one is shorter with Afrikaans and with English. And then you get the Hillian one is England, the original one. So that was how Iron Fist developed. And that is how Iron Fist across the world made a lot of impact on certain operations, on certain people. And still today, the normal Recce's here read that book to get their information from if they want to go and do talks or whatever the case may be, they do that. Thank you, Koos. That was Iron Fist from the Sea. Can I carry on?
I just have a few questions, if you don't mind, Douw. I'll be quick. Yes. I know you changed the cover. You sort of mentioned it already. Can I just ask you, and I'll put the pictures here to show people how the cover is not the same in the different versions of a book, even if it's the same book. Can you perhaps just explain that to us? The first one had you coming out of the ocean, and the second one is a picture of a group of men.
Yes. The first one was the one that was printed in England. It was 2 divers under a bridge or something. That was a front page. When we decided for a front page of the book in South Africa, I decided it must be a group photo, and I went through my library of photos and I got this specific one, and that was a photo taken of the group of men just before they got deployed to do Kerslig. And that was actually in memory of the people that died in Kerslig. That is why I put that photo in front of that book. And that's, the center of the photo is Kokkie, and that was the last photo taken of his team and himself before they went on land to go and do the operation. So that is actually a photo in memory of the people, of the soldiers and my friends that died in Kerslig.
Now I have to ask, let me say it like this. If you're looking for any of the books which Douw is talking about, we're going to leave the links where you can get hold of the books, the email addresses. It will be in the descriptions. It will also be here at the end of the video. It will be in between. I'll put it in. But if you have any problem in getting hold of these books, just contact me. I will point you in the right direction. They're still available though, the Iron Fist of the Sea, still available for sale to the public?
Yes, Iron Fist from the Sea is still available in England. I did discuss it with Healy and the publishers, and they are now busy, I think, with the fourth print of the book, and that will be available on Amazon.com.
Thank you. So it's electronic as well as paper.
Yes, you can buy it hard copy or you can buy it on ebooks. It's available on both.
Okay, thank you for that. I think Iron Fist from the Sea is such a wonderful book. It is a prescribed book, as you say, in many of the places, in many of the academies. I think you two have done fantastically well with that book. I have to thank you for that. And then
I can just add, I go throughout the country and do formal presentations of that book for whoever asks me to do that. And it is quite a lengthy presentation with very good photos and an explanation of the book, why we write it, and so on. And the very last, I just want to add this, the very last pages of the book or the chapters of the book is where the Russians actually acknowledged that we were destroying them and they never could caught us, they never know about us, they know that something is happening, and they were very, very, very scared of 4 Recce's operations. I can just mention you one, their diving operation, and afterwards we got this Russians. They said they throw hand grenades into the water to keep the divers away. They throw so much of hand grenades in the water that they actually build a curtain with the rings of the hand grenades. And there they acknowledge that, and it's a very good story about the Russians. And I went to Russia 2 or 3 times to go and do the presentation on the book because they really, really enjoyed it. And there they came out to understand why they never could get us, never could caught us, never know where we are and what we are doing.
So that story which they are telling that they physically was in a knife fight with 4 Recce divers. There's a video also. I'll put the link in here for everyone to go and study that video of your trip to Russia. We have it. But that never happened, as far as I know. Yeah,
of course. You know, the Russians is very famous for their propaganda. And, you know, just to show that they never lost or lose a fight, they brought in this whole thing of their divers, or their divers attacked our divers under the water and they killed us and so on. And when I saw this, in the videos first, what I got from internet, especially in this operation was called Operation Douw Steyn. I said to them, but it can't happen. It didn't happen. So, and that is one of the reasons. And when I went to Russia and I presented the presentation of the book, and I showed them on a video clip what they show and what they do and what happened on the operation, they were quiet. They never said a word after that. They quiet down and they relaxed and believed in what they said was false propaganda.
Do you think that it's because of their system, which was very totalitarian, what's the word in English, very rigid, that perhaps they've given false or fake reports back to Moscow? Or did somebody not shoot off his mouth, perhaps?
Yeah, just one of the operations, Operation Douw Steyn. Just to give you a very short thing, the boats, we sank the boats, and the Angolans thought that the South Africans was attacking them. And they screamed and made go mad. And then there was a Russian ship from in North Africa that came down with a hell of a speed. And then the Americans saw that a Russian fleet is going down down the coast of Angola. They brand up and they wanted to come to Angola to see what happened. So there was almost a world war going to happen because between the Russians and the Navy. And we just attacked the ships. We sank the ships, we did our job, and we and we left. We never heard about this big stories at sea. But then later on, I met, with my book and research, I met a guy called Maxim Ivanov. Maxim Ivanov was on one of the ships. The ship captain asked them, listen, is there any divers on the ship? And Max said to them, yes, I'm a diver, but just a social diver. He said, come here. He said, write your name here. He write his name there, and they put this piece of paper and they send it to Moscow. And as Max told me, about half an hour later, come back, Maxim Ivanov, you're now a qualified Russian diver, military diver. So he had to dive. He had to go and see what is happening with the ships that's all sunk. They didn't have a wetsuit and this, or they had a wetsuit, but it was very, very thin, and it was not a military type of suit. He said he died of cold in the water. He dived there for 3 days, tried to find out what was happening under the water. And every time when he come up to change his cylinders, they gave him a few sips of vodka and tell, go down. So then eventually he find one bomb that didn't went off, and they came back and said to them, listen, there's one bomb that didn't went off, and what? They gave him a lineal, and said, go and take off the bomb and bring it back. So that is what Max, that short story, that they took off the mine and he brought it back. Then they took it out my car and see what was happening and where it comes from. They couldn't, because all the signs was taken off. Just by that action, Max and myself is very close friends today. And he is one of the very few young Russians that's received the Red Cross from the Red Star from Russia. And he said to me, that was the most dangerous thing that he ever could get. And I said, why, Max? He said, man, now every woman wants me. There's just emails and WhatsApps and things they sent all over, and they didn't, and I don't reply. But then after that, we made a movie, the thing that I showed you, that documentary on how enemies meet. And that documentary is very, very interesting, is that we made a documentary of when they came here to South Africa. We went to Simonstown, we went all over to document how it happened here. And we actually did false dives and under the water and show what happened. And then I went to Russia, and we were walking on a red square and in the gardens and things like that, discussing the whole thing. And one of the most important, one of the things that happened there is that I had to speak to his mother. His mother is everything for him in life. And she actually then said, thank you very much, Douw, that you didn't kill my son. You know, there was no time that no period of time that we crossed each other for him to be killed by any of the South African forces. But his mother was very glad to see that I'm alive. And then they asked me a lot of questions there. And that was part of the documentary. And it was interesting. That documentary was sent to 3-4 film shows. And the documentary ended always in the first 3 of the documentaries. And it was showed on Russian TV because it was in Russian first, and then later on it was translated into English, and that's the one that I sent to you. Thanks, Koos.
Thank you. I will put the link in for that video. It's about an hour, and it's really fascinating because it shows the aftermath of operations as well. We can see where the ships were seriously damaged.
And the book described every single operation in detail, specifically the one of Douw Steyn.
Just a really last question on Iron Fist. Is it difficult to take a limpet mine, which is affixed to a ship? Is it difficult to take that thing off? Because I understand that the magnets are very, very powerful.
Because it is special magnets that we use to take it off, and it is very close onto the ship. And it must be also understand that we also put in anti-lift devices and all these things. Now, that specific mine, still today we do not know what happened. Was it activated or not activated? but nothing worked on that specific mine. That's why they could take it off. But they, if you put in a piece of metal or something in the little space you get, you can break the mine off. And it was, as Maxime said, it was very difficult for him to get it off. It's just not going and then take it off. It was an operation to take it off. He wanted to take a linear, but it didn't work because it broke, and he get something else to take it off. But eventually he got it off, and they took the mine and see what type of mine it was. But what they do not understand is that we also put fake mines on the ships, and with a little bit of improvised stuff on it. And the reason for that is it is a part of our camouflage, a part of our cover story to say, but if somebody happened, then the resistance movement, UNITA will claim and say, yeah, they did it. Then they believe them because that type of mine they got is shambles. And they believe, yeah, UNITA can only afford or do this type of mine. So that was a very good disguise of our people and our operations we did. But it's all an Iron Fist of the Sea. You read it and you'll find it very interesting.
Well, thank you for that. Of course, I have a lot of questions, but this is not the time. Otherwise, we'll keep you talking and talking. And this is for legacy books. We keep it a bit shorter than normal. So let's go to the next book. That is Special Forces, The Men Speaks, or The Men Speak.
Of course, no, let's do the recipes book first.
Okay, let's do him. Can you tell us about the recipe book?
Yeah, of course, then it was actually a joke. I decided by my own, how do people get together? When are they happy, or when do they do things together? And I realized, but eating together, that is where all the stories come out. And that is where people connect again. And that's where people talk and say, hey, you heard about this, you heard about this, around a piece of food. Doesn't matter what type of food it was. So I got a friend of mine, Justin Vermaak, and we start to research on how we're going to do this book. And we came to the conclusion that we're going to put in a few real recipes so that it just looks like a recipe book. Then we got stories from all over again on how people prepared their food and how people eat their food. That is from how to eat the vulture. That is how to eat the snake. And on our survival courses, the funny stories that came out there, we put that into the book. It's a very interesting book. And we also divided it up in everything that fly. That is 5 Recce. Also for 5 Recce stories. Everything in the water, that is all 4 Recce stories. Everything that walk is 1 Recce stories. So we divided up into that thing. And the stories in there is very, very good. And it's, it is from eating on the hotel roof in Durban, where everything was out. It was a 21st birthday, and we were on the roof. There was pictures taken. So yes, it is a variety of very interesting and very funny stories from how people eat on selection. What the type of porridge we gave them to eat, what's the paraffin that we used to feed the oats, and what was their reaction, and they didn't want to eat, or how they tried to steal the food, and how they tried to get food from the instructors, and then they got the food and it was the wrong food, it was not good food, it was petrol and filth, all this. But yeah, that I think was just a period in between book where I got the people together and talk about food stories around it. If you go back to other areas like the submarine, if you want to eat in the submarine, it is very, very small. Everybody sits on top of each other, but the food was excellent. Just to give you a short description on a submarine, they always had a bowl of dry fruit. That is not for your stomach to get hard, because in the little submarines we got, their toilet system is a closed system. If you go to the toilet and you block the toilet, you must clean it. So you must then clean the whole system. So the guys was eating dried fruit all the time just to ensure that the stomach is not hot and they don't block the sewage system of the ship. On a strike craft, for example, we were sitting in, we were right aft in the NCO's base. But to get the food, we had to walk through the engine room, go up to the kitchen, get the food with buckets, and then come back. And the sea was rough. Half of the food fell on the engines, and then it came there. And when we sat down, the coffee fall over. And remember, there's about place for say 8 people. When we came on board, then we slept about 20 in that little space. And then the coffee fall on the top, guys that was lying down. So yeah, that was also an interesting story on how to eat on a submarine and how to eat on a strike craft. So that is all interesting little stories. And then, of course, the stories with UNITA, with the resistance movement, how they cook food in drums, and what they make with the drums, and what type of, how they chop it up and throw it in, and all stand in a queue just via chasing the flies and get your bucket there to eat something. And that today is about half of our guys' stomachs is done just because of the type of food we eat and the type of water we drink with the resistance movements, or with the, when we do certain operations, especially Recce operations, your food is, you can't carry your 10 tons of food with you, and then it is what you get on the ground. So yeah, that is all that type of stories that's in that book. Very interesting book, and a book full of humor.
Well, it's Napoleon who said that an army marches on its stomach.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, 100% correct. And if you look at that, now the marches on his stomach, your stomach must be filled up with anything that you can eat. It's not go to mama's kitchen and say, Mama, give me food, or pop, or this or that. You must find your food in the bush. I got a little story just to share it with you, is that, I presented an election course in Caprivi, and I gave the guys a march to war. But that night, we, as the instructors, went out and shoot about 20 rabbits. And we brought it back. And we decided we're going to give this for the students to eat. But what we did, we cut it in half. And we leave a little bit of skin on the paws and the skin around the mouth, and we cook it. So when the guys come around to collect their food, they think they're getting meat. The legs were standing like this. I hook it onto his bucket, and now this little thing is looking at, because he's thinking that. So you look at that. The other oak get the arsehole right down, and he get the arsehole, and you look at the arsehole. So yes, they got their food. But now we watch them how they eat this stuff. Some guys enjoyed it; they just eat it. There was a major on course. He buried his. I saw he buried his. I said nothing. So we give them another leg to walk, and they said, okay, another leg is coming back to where we are now. So 2 days later, we came back on a specific area where we gave them the meat of. That's a very nice thing to have, is meat on a selection course. And that major said, all right, they're expecting some food. I said, yes, you can. Dig out your rabbit and eat it. So he had to eat his rabbit that was in the hole for 2 or 3 days. And yes, that's how he got his meat. And still today, he's not dead. He's still a very good man today.
Oh, that's fascinating to me. I can just imagine. I've always heard these stories of a poor recruit, the guys going on a selection. I'm sure it happened to you as well. They were really hungry. They want this bread, and then they get the bread, which is dumped into fuel, into gasoline or something. But I would like to know, what is the reaction of these guys when that happens? And you as an instructor, are you enjoying this, or with a little bit of sympathy?
During the selection course? No. I can speak in length about selection courses, but, you select people that you must be confident that that you can go with him into war. So the selection course is not a course for babies. A selection course is there to select people that we as the instructors will be happy enough to train that guy to go with us to war. If he's if he's not that type of caliber, he will not pass the selection course. That is easy as that. So just for, in very short, my selection course, we started off 650 people. We ended up 35, and we did our selection course in Zululand. In 21 days, we walked 620 kilometers with a cement block on your back of 30 kilograms, and we crossed swamps, mountains, sea, hills, everything. And then we also had to swim through certain lakes. The instructors was on the side with R1 rifles, shooting the crocodiles that want to bite us. That was part of our selection. And yeah, you know what? We did that and we passed it and we're still here alive. And now you do not have sympathy because you must select people that can go to war. You know, I always said, I train people and I select people, and I rather do it on a hard way, because my most difficult thing is go to that guy's mother and say, sorry, he died because he couldn't make it or he didn't do that. So my training and my selection was done in such a way that I didn't have to go to his mother and sympathize on what happened. He can go to his mother and say, I did a successful operation because I got a successful selection and I did a successful training.
Well, we can only applaud that outlook. That makes a lot of sense. This book is still available also? It is still, people can buy it?
Yes, it is also sold out, but it is very easy to get it printed again. And that is just phone the publisher and say, this is the need, and you print books again.
Okay, so if people want to get hold of this book, they can just go to our descriptions and they can find out the information and they'll be able to get hold of it.
Yes, yes. And you can put it up, and the one place that I can get it from is also War Books. War Books do have still some of the books, and they can get it there. The others can be reprinted. It is not a big story, and that can be done. It all depends on the volumes. And okay, just as a last thing on this book, all the money that we get on this book goes to our association. And that is for our old soldiers that's in need of food and whatever the case might be. So this book is just a part of our funding of our association.
Okay, then there was the third book. That book is very special because I've seen one of them. It's a magnificent effort. I think it's called Special Forces, The Men Speak. Can you tell me about this one?
Yes, because of all the books that I was involved in, I think Special Forces, The Men Speak, it is the best book out there in terms of stories, in terms of pictures. Now, what happened, the other guy in the book that assisted was Jonathan Pittaway. He lives in Durban, where I live. And he's a guy that always writes different books and different things. On Special Forces, it was very difficult for him to do that. And then he asked me to assist him and do the research to get people to write stories about what they experience. Now, this book is all about private stories. Guys came and they gave, things that guys got on their close to their heart. They couldn't share it with anybody else. What happened? And we gave them the platform to give us a story, to give us what happened. Let us take a simple story. I can go to an operation fighting the enemy. 10 guys can go there. You get 10 stories. And some of the stories is heartbreaking to see what happened. Other stories is great to see what happened. And one of the stories in the book, the first story in the book is very interesting. This is the first time that on the Wynand the Douw story where he was captured and what happened to him, never and ever was anybody said about the other side of what happened. Everybody just followed Wynand, but it must be remembered, there was 9 of them. Wynand and these guys, 2 was killed, and he was wounded and he got the other 6. What happened to them? Never spoke about them, never came forward and say, this is what happened. Now, one of the stories that's in the book gives us exact detail on what happened with the 6 guys that was left, how they escaped, how they was wounded, and how the people or how the soldiers really leopard crawl for, I want to say miles, but very far out of the enemy encirclement, get onto the road, go to the beach, and they got onto the submarine. 2 of them was wounded. That story never came out. So the truth of what happened there, why Wynand and his crowd went one side, and how the 6 came out, the story is in the book. And it's very sad to say that, but two to 3 months later, Michael died. But luckily, the story is in the book. The history is in the book on what happened with that other 6 guys and how it happened. You know, in that whole story, a guy called Milka Queiroz, the Portuguese, he actually got his honoris crux on that whole operation. Nobody knew about it, and nobody knew what happened there. And that is a fascinating story. That's one of the stories. The other one was from Kloppies, that was also in Kerslig. Before he went there, how they attacked a house in Botswana by going in a container, locked himself up in a container, and they went in. Container was cut open. The guys got out, attacked the house, got into the container, locked up the container, put the seal, and went out, and nobody knew about what happened. But the whole house with ANC terrorists was destroyed. He said that was the first time that he could shoot some few bullets through a TV, and he said he quietly enjoyed that. But yes, that is that type of operation. And Kloppies is also now dead. But if he didn't tell me the story and we didn't book it, it would be a story that was gone forever. So yeah, that is a type of stories, and there's very, very good stories on the history of special forces, where it started, since the World War II, and then in the 1960s, how it came, and the book is divided up 1950, 1960, 1970, 1980, and 1990. So we put those stories in groups of the timeline and how they talked about this, and there you'll really find the accurate history of how Fort Hunter or the Hunter group started, because we hunted down the original guys and they gave us the stories. How the guys went for training with the SAS in the 60s. All that is in the book and how it developed. And there's another story about Jimmy Overall, so that gave me the whole history of Fort Doppies, where it started, where they built the thing, how it burned down, how the monkeys ran away, and how they got a monkey out, and then the story of our lion terrier, how it came on board through all the opera, through the Fort Doppies as it where it was, and was broken down now. The whole history of that is also in that book, in the book. And with Jimmy, he gave us a lot of his initial operations in Zambia and also in the south of Angola, and also in the Caprivi, there was some terrorists running around that he hunted down. And the book is 720 pages, 3,000 photos, and it is all the pages gloss. So the pictures and the stories is a very, very high quality book. And the book weight is 2.2 kilograms. It's a very good book, and if somebody wants to read about good stories, guys, that's the book to buy.
I can call it a collector's item, a collector's book.
Really? I understand exactly. That can become a collector's item. And I know there's some guys that buy 2 books. With his number in, I sign it, and I put a specific number in there, and he put that on his shelf. Then he buy another one, and that's the one that he reads. So the one there is number 33 or number 34 of the books that we gave out. And he bought, and all his books in his collection is number 33. And all his book here, he got 2 books. One that is in the shelf, that is signed off with all the nice pictures and things in it, and the other one is one that he sits on his chair and read it. And what I always say with all my books is, that is a book that a guy from Special Forces, an operator, can take. You can sit his grandchildren on his lap and say, look, this is Opa's book. There I am. I was a soldier in that time. It doesn't look like that, but this is when I was young. This is what I did. And that's why I got all the permission from all the old guys, all the old Recces, to put their photos in, to put their names in, especially to show their kids where they were, what they did, and to the grandchildren. And I experienced it myself. They come to me and say, Opa, I can't even believe that you were in the army shooting things. I said, yes, the book, there's a story, there's a picture. And they just can't believe it. And that is all the books, what I do, especially for that.
It was really fascinating to me. I have to ask you, because yesterday, let me rather say, just a few days before this one came out, we recorded Jack Greef, your friend, about his book. And a whole bunch of viewers then started asking, is he writing another book? And the answer is yes. He's halfway done with his other book. It's called War in the Park. And that has to do with his life as a game ranger or something, I believe, in Kruger National Park, after he left the reconnaissance regiment. And I think it will be fascinating because I had a battle there going with poachers. Do you think, though, there's still a few books in here? Can you improve on this one of the last one?
Of course, yes, especially Special Forces, the men speak. There is we got so much of stories that we couldn't put it all into one book, because then the book would have been 1,000 pages, and it just get more expensive and more expensive the more stories you put in. So yes, we do have some more stories. Jonathan and myself is now kicking around the fact, must we put in another book, or must we just change this book? Yes, there's something on the horizon that we want to put in, because there's some still good stories that we think that we can put in a book. One of the stories is where I personally was involved, and that comes from one of my friends that was with me. We were deployed in Mozambique when we did the operations with the Rhodesians, and we was on the Russian front. They throw us in with parachutes, and we had to fight and mapai and lay mines and delay the process of the terrorists coming forward. And we were 6 or 8 people, I can't remember. And one night we did our dog legs, lie down and cool down. And we heard this ting, ting, ting coming up. And it was one of the enemy carrying an RPG-7 and branches just tick on the thing. So they came into our ambush area. We shot all of them, killed them. And one of the drills is what you must do is to stand up and clean the area in terms of magazines, bombs, and whatever was lying around. As we stood up, Cookie, the team leader, was also my head instructor for my selection course and training thereafter, was about a meter in front of me because we walked staggered. And as he stood up, there was one shot fired, and he was killed just there next to me. And it was very sad. It was my very first operation I did. So I really decided, I really say, I am in war. I live with the death. And this is what happened. Then in the meantime, what happened, this group that we shot was the reconnaissance group of a battalion that was on their way. So the battalion heard the stories, and they started to chase us. We carried Cookie's body for 2 days on run, sleep as we go past. And because we was out of the range of helicopters to pick us up, so we had to run to get into the range where helicopters could pick us up. And we carried Cookie's body all the time with us. And it was funny. It was not funny that time, but now I think it's funny. in night time, when we want to rest a little bit, we put Corky's body on the other side because we were scared of his body. So we were sleeping this side or eating this side and then go back to Corky's body and then carry on further. So yes, that was my introduction to Special Forces operations. And we got in, we also, that specific operation, we actually was parachuting into the place and we landed into a sandalwood forest with sticks. There 2 sticks, 1 stick went through my arse, 1 stick went through my toe. We had to pull this all out and the enemy, they know that we were in the bush. They encircled the bush a few times. We stayed there until it was free, and that's how that operation started. So yeah, that is also another story that we can put into the next book. It is done. And the guy that wrote the story today is a priest. He lives in Namibia. So you can expect that it's a good and true story.
Well,
that's a story still left.
That's absolutely fascinating to me, because if these stories don't come out, they're going to die with you, I'm sad to say. So I think I urge you, if you can get that book done, please get it done. We would love to read it.
We on a moment, we're gathering stories again to put it in. And what is also sad, that you must understand, is that Special Forces people, Special Forces operators, is very analytical and very skeptical. So why must I give you a story? Are you going to publish it in a book and the enemy is going to attack me because I'm now 68, I don't want to do anything. But once those guys saw the book, Special Forces, The Men Speak, I now get requests. Can I send you another story? Can I do this? Can I do that? Because they see that we honor the stories by printing it and publishing it in good, very good format and a very good book. And that is why, and we honor the stories in that book by doing it, the photos that we put in. And we also try, the photos that we put into the book is 85% of that photos was never published before. So we try to put in new things all the time, try to dig and see where we can find something else to put in. And it is not easy, especially, to describe one story. A story will be 3 pages of attacking a ship, but we only get 1 picture of that whole operation. So we put that picture there, but we also put other pictures in because we can't leave the spaces blank. So the pictures of the book is not always reflecting the operation because there is enough photos, but the stories is too long and not enough pictures of that specific operation. So yes, the designer of the book is a woman that assists us in designing this book. And that's how the book came to light. And I don't know if I must say it, but we get stories and then we send it to the translator, not a translator, a taalkundige guy, a woman, that now must just make the story translated to English or just make the English looks better. We send a 6-pager to her and say, please make this book or the story readable. Then she sends it back and it's only 2 pages. I said, now, where's the rest of the story? No, I just took out all the swear words. And that is why the page is now only 2 pages or not 6 pages anymore. I said, okay, well done. That's why we hire you to do that, we could have leave it in.
Well, that's fantastic. I really hope it sees the light of the day. I deliberately didn't talk about prices of books because, it changes. It changes as time goes. So it's useless for us to put it here. But I just want to make sure, though, you are available if people want you to come and speak about your books. They just need to contact you, or perhaps a Recce evening or something like that, or in your private capacity.
Yeah, in my private capacity, I'm available, and there's 2 types of presentations. The one is about the book, Iron Fist from the Sea specifically. Then you'll get another presentation on one specific operation. So the book presentation It's the whole story of the book, and also into some of operations, how the whole story, or how for Recce was developed into a raiding force that everybody was scared of in the world. And then you get the different two type of stories: the presentation of the book and the presentation of a specific operation. Yes, that can be done. We do have it. We got it. It's right to rumble. Of course, can I just read something as the closing of the session?
Yes, of course, please.
This is what the Russians said to us when we meet for the first time, and I will read it what they said. They were a deeply specialized reconnaissance and sabotage unit, capable for a long time to act in isolation from the main forces in the enemy's territory, often relying only on ourselves. Commandos of the Defence Force of South Africa not only developed their own extremely effective and ruthless systems of selection and training, but also enriched tactics by specific techniques and modes of action from a professional point of view. Their experience is invaluable and unique. The Russians veterans.
Well, I don't think you can have greater honor than that. If even your enemy respects you, then that's
Yeah, that's how they respected us, and that's the story that they gave us when we meet each other.
Douw, thank you. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you for explaining your books to us. I'm really glad that there's another one. Perhaps, who knows, we think might be coming. I will leave all the links below. And as I said before, if you have any problems getting onto these books, please contact me. I will contact Douw. We'll see if we can resolve this for you. So until we meet again, God bless.